Live from News Channel 8 in Tampa, Florida, this is Bucs Bonus on WFLA Now. Powered by 1-800-ASK-GARY.
It certainly wasn't pretty, but when they were needed the most, the baby Bucs shine in a win over the Rams with a trip to Germany up next for Tom Brady and your Tampa Bay Buccaneers. And with that, we say to all of you joining us here in the Stream Center, Guten Tag, Bucs Insiders. Dan Lucas, Karen Loftus here with us on Bucs Bonus on WFLA Now, powered by 1-800-ASK-GARY. We've got a lot to talk about with Germany on tap. We're going to be talking about the Seahawks and the Buccaneers playing in Europe, an international affair. But before we do that, we're going to, of course, recap this matchup with the Rams coming into town and the Bucs with that fourth quarter drive. It was a little bit more of what we were used to seeing as far as a just kind of discombobulated Buccaneers offense for most of the game. But then when you really needed that drive from Tom Brady, it was different characters coming to the table, not the Mike Evans or the Chris Godwins. We're talking Scotty Miller. We're talking Cade Otton. What was that like for the two of you to be able to see that and see the Bucs go in a different direction to supercharge that offense when they were needed the most? Karen, why don't we start with you?
Yeah, I thought it was really encouraging to see because, it's like you've talked about this and, who's down the depth chart. When you talk about Chris Godwin and Mike Evans getting double teamed, it's like you need those guys behind them to be able to make the plays. So to see Cade step up and, of course, the amazing story, just what he's been through with his mom passing and to get his first NFL touchdown and such an amazing situation. I was talking to him in the locker room today, actually, and it was just neat to see his confidence. Not that he didn't have it before, but I asked him, what can that do for you guys as a team and you yourself? And he's like, it was really good to get that, and it is something we can build on.
It was cool to see him so heavily utilized in the drive. He had a couple of catches on that drive, and then, of course, to score his first NFL touchdown in such a key moment. That's a trust builder with Tom Brady, is it not, Dan?
Well, I heard him referred to in the national media sense as Baby Gronk. So
nice.
there is that's your sign that people believe in him. And he was one of the drops earlier in the game. The Bucs had a case of the drops against the Rams, and it was the who's who dropping the passes. And the fact that Tom Brady, as it turned out after the fact, it was Tom Brady's play call on the Cade Otton touchdown, the game-winning touchdown. So Tom Brady knew what he wanted to do. He loves throwing to that tight end. This would have been Brady to Gronk, 10 out of 10, and he chose a route that was to that position, to a guy that just needed to catch it and step across the line. It sounds simple, but you have to execute that. I just thought it was a wonderful moment for Cade Otton, as you described, everything he's been through. He's trying to cement himself in this lineup as a rookie and get a bigger role. And then to have Tom Brady trust you on that play when he has other options before him, that's awesome for Cade Otton.
And the other thing I thought was neat after the game, Tom Brady was saying, listen, he was asked about the drop passes. He said, I don't really care about the drop passes as much as guys not getting open. He said, I understand drops. He's like, I have bad throws. That happens. Just catch it the next time. So in regards to that wasn't as big a thing to him as like, if I don't even get an option to throw it to you, then that's a bigger deal for him. So, and we've seen that. If somebody drops it, he'll go back to him. He has no problems with
How about Scotty Miller being the prime example with that drop in the end zone?
Redemption for him on that drive.
Absolutely.
After getting hit in the face mask.
Yeah.
With the ball in the back of the end zone, and the crowd erupted as soon as it got to him because that was a touchdown. Usually 10 out of 10 times, 9.5 out of 10.
But that's what builds a team is that understanding. People might make mistakes. Granted, what makes great people great is making those catches in the biggest moments. But we're all going to have mistakes, right?
Right.
So the fact that Tom Brady has communicated that to his players and says, just make up for it, then that's like, okay, they're not going to get, overly down on themselves. And that Tom Brady's going to go back to them.
And it's not really our problem, but shame on our old pal, Raheem Morris, who's the defensive coordinator of the Rams. just letting the Bucs go down the sideline. They needed 60 yards, and I'm trying to recall the drive. I think it was 3 straight passes down the sideline, out. How in the world?
Stop the clock,
You're giving them
right.
12, 15 yards off the sideline like that, and they're just going right down the field. It's like, might as well just place the ball on the 1 and let them have it. So you can have time yourself to try and get a drive.
Yeah, 60 yards in 6 plays in 35 seconds.
Yeah.
Oof.
That was vintage Tom Brady.
It really was. And magic, Brady magic, when perhaps the Bucs, I mean, were at their most vulnerable. We're talking about perhaps them slipping even further in the standings in an abysmal NFC South. It was a win that was pretty desperate. I think that some were, including some of us, I believe, were short of calling it must win given how bad the NFC South is. But that moment just being, can you imagine how poor it would be for this team right now heading into this affair in Germany with another loss like that, and also losing to the Rams after the playoff loss, the exit loss last year. So a massive, I think we can all agree and nod our heads, right, that this was a season-changing victory.
Possibly
for the Bucs.
was, yeah.
Because they lose that game, and then you're going into, and we're going to talk about this more in a little bit, Dan, because I know you're itching to talk about it, how internationally the Bucs don't have really that great of a track record. Just really important to escape with a win, because we talked about it on the last episode of Bucs Bonus, powered by 1-800-ASK-GARY. We talked about how you had to stop Cooper Kupp. And really, the Bucs did their very best. 8 receptions for 127 yards and a touchdown, a couple big plays for Cooper Kupp. At this point, he has gotten to a level in the NFL where it's not as much trying to stop him, it's just trying to contain him. But also, too, it wasn't pretty on the other side of the football either, because as we're looking here at the Week 9 recap, 19 rushing yards for Lenny Fournette. And also, too, we were talking about the drops, and we're looking at 36 of 58 passing for Tom Brady as well.
Threw
So
almost 60
58
passes.
passes.
and that's a lot of incompletions when you're talking about 58 thrown balls, you guys.
Well, and one other thing on Cooper Kupp, he made an error on the Rams' last possession, sliding down where he did instead of getting to the first down marker. I don't know. I didn't hear any reaction from him after the game, but that seals the game for the Rams on that one play, and that helped the defense force the punt, which gave the Bucs the ball back one more time. And so, yeah, the Rams have some issues coming out of this game. The Bucs, they have issues as well for sure. But 2 things. One, as Bill Cowher used to say back in my covering the Steelers days, because in '95, the Steelers were 3-4, and then they won 7 in a row. And I can tell you this, all 7 of those games were ugly wins. And Cowher would come in and go, a win is a win, and we take it. Yep. And they end up going to the Super Bowl that year. That's what's possible when you stop the bleeding the way the Bucs did. I know they got to come right back, but 4-5 is a lot better than 3-6, because now you're counting games at this point. Realistically, what do you think? 9 wins probably wins the NFC South.
Yeah.
9 and 8.
Yeah.
So,
at this rate, right? Yeah.
And
So
we agree still from
Right.
last week, Dan. You noted it's probably going to come down to the week 18?
Yeah, that week 18 game in Atlanta.
Yeah. I mean, that's the way that it's early.
Yeah.
But that's the way that things are starting to shape up.
The other thing, JB, is let's presume the Bucs win the NFC South. So at best, they're playing for the 3rd seed in the NFC. That's going to give them a home game in the wild card round. And then if now you throw the top 4 seeds in it, they would be on the road against number 2. But you just never know. Like last year, they weren't supposed to have a home game in the playoffs. They wound up getting one because of losses. Teams ahead of them seated ahead. So you don't want to be seated 4th. When we seated 3rd, give yourself a chance to have maybe 2 home games in the postseason out of pure luck, if that's the case. But big win to just let everybody feel good. And that game had plenty of problems.
It sure did, but always easier to look at the game film after a win. Easier to critique when you're like, okay, well, at least we got the win. Let's look at this and see what we can do. And then obviously you can't turn it around until you get that win.
You know what Bruce Arians used to say? I asked him, I go, when you lose a game, you can learn a lot from a loss. And he said, yeah, I can learn a lot from a close win, too.
Heard that. Yes, exactly.
that was his thing.
Exactly. So
That's
now
what this was.
going forward, it's like, okay, well, can you build on it? It's like, can you get a little win streak going? Let's stack together 2. Let's stack together 3. And I think this back-to-back, winning the Rams, and if they can win in Germany, is going to be huge, just considering the immense travel that I know that we want to get into with this. Like, those would be 2 huge confidence-building wins for the Bucs.
Before we move on to the matchup in Germany with the Seattle Seahawks, we're going to move to our injury watch for the week. And, of course, it's Wednesday. We're waiting on the injury reports to progress over the course of the week as we get closer to the Week 10 matchup. But all eyes right now as far as it relates to the Buccaneers are on Antoine Winfield Jr., who Dan, as we understand it, as far as the Bucs, remains in concussion protocol.
At Wednesday's practice, Karen was at the practice. My understanding, he was jogging around.
He was out there, yeah.
So he's still out.
Yeah, injury report is not. I just checked again.
So he's in the concussion protocol. Can't have a full practice. Can't even have a limited practice.
But he was dressed out. I mean,
he can go out there. I would have to imagine. Now they have 2 more practices and a walkthrough. Take the travel out of it. So they've got Thursday practice. Friday practice is probably the most important when they get over there for his status if he travels.
That's
so I would
another
have
part
to imagine
too.
Thursday's practice might be a little more important than normal. But once he clears the protocol, and you have to think he's more than a week and a half removed. I know concussions are different, but for everybody. However, that's kind of about the timeline for most folks. They miss a game, maybe 2 games, and then they're able to get out of it. So obviously you don't want to push it, but it's about the time when he would probably want to undergo some testing to see what's going on. I imagine he's going in the right direction.
You would
I'm
hope
not,
so.
I am not banking on him playing
But
Sunday.
and I don't know how travel impacts this. Like, I'm not familiar enough with concussion protocol.
I think it's a no-no.
If you're not allowed to like be on a plane or something.
Right, yeah.
I have no idea.
So he might not even make the trip to Germany based on
we're gonna find
his
out.
progress.
Team travels Thursday,
Tomorrow.
late afternoon, which gives him a little over 24 hours until that trip. And I don't know if he's even allowed to fly.
I have no idea.
Or maybe I don't know. Who knows? Maybe he's on the cusp. The Bucs don't talk about concussion protocol. They acknowledge he's in it, and that's the end of the information. You coaches will say, "Hey, he's feeling better," but that means nothing. Yeah, you cannot.
But
say,
if he
he's ready.
if he's better, that would be massive.
Yeah.
His energy. I mean,
he is. I would say he is the best player on the defense. And going into last week's game, the Bucs got Akeem Hicks back on the defensive line, and we sat here and we all agreed that was a massive return.
And
from
what
injury.
did we see? Right.
It was going to help Vita Vea, and what did Vita Vea do in that game?
Shined.
Yes,
6.5 sacks to lead the team.
He went crazy.
Picked 2 more
He was in
up.
the Rams' backfield. Vita Vea is a run stopper. He had 2 quarterback sacks in that game. That
Love
was
to see
Akeem
it.
Hicks getting double teams.
I actually asked them about that in the locker room. I spoke to a couple of the defensive linemen, and they were all so glad to have him back.
Sure.
And Joe Tryon-Shoyinka and Will Golston.
And wait till Winfield gets back.
Yeah.
Wait till he gets back.
And
That's
then
next.
that's almost you can feel it, right? That's the winning recipe for the back half of the season is playing defensive-minded football and perhaps not throwing up 30, 40, 50 points on a week-to-week basis, but just frustrating opposing offenses and doing it with guys like Vita Vea and Akeem Hicks and Devin White and Levante David and hopefully the guy here on the left side of your screen, Antoine Winfield Jr. The most frustrating, let's just talk really quickly before we move on to Seattle. For Winfield, it's got to be unbelievably frustrating because when you're talking about a knee injury or you're talking about a shoulder injury, there's progress. And there's usually a timeline and a pretty well-established expectation as to when you are going to return. But concussion protocol, it can be 2 steps forward and 3 steps back. It can be very challenging week to week.
It's not a tangible thing. There's no range of motion or strength testing or anything where you can test a knee or an arm or shoulder. No, this is
you don't want to play with that.
This is your brain.
No. Yeah.
And you can get up in the morning and feel terrific, and then do a little bit of activity and all of a sudden, like, you know what? No,
Nauseous,
stop.
dizziness,
no,
whatever.
not good. And you can even have days where you feel better and then revert back to it. It's a scary thing, but for the sake of the injury report this week, I will be surprised if Winfield plays Sunday. I hope he does, and I hope he's healthy and ready to go, but I would be surprised.
Most important for the run as they push for the playoffs and an NFC South division title. Hey, Antoine Winfield, hoping for the best for you, buddy, and hoping that you're back sooner rather than later and at 100% health. Let's work towards now our Week 10 preview. Seattle Seahawks, Tampa Bay Buccaneers, and no, that's not a typo on your screen. You're getting up for morning football, folks. 9:30 in the morning, Munich, Germany. That's November the 9th, or excuse me, today's 13. November the 9th. So that's November the 13th. A couple of typos there. Apologies for the mistake.
There
but
are
that
watch
is
parties,
NFL,
JB,
NFL
at
Network.
different areas. There's watch parties at establishments around the Bay
Brunch
Area
and
going
Bucs.
on. Yeah, get up in the
Breakfast
morning.
and Buck. Yeah, that's
Listen,
breakfast time. That's not
I watch
brunch time.
a lot of the European soccer leagues on Saturdays and Sundays, and you could get up and watch games at 7 in the morning if you're into it. And so that's just how it is over there. Matter of fact, Bayern Munich just played at home last night at the Allianz Arena there where the Bucs are going to play. And so a bunch of folks from the NFL were there. They were tweeting out videos and pictures and looking at the atmosphere. It's an awesome place.
Looks
and
really
it's going to be
cool.
an awesome atmosphere. And I'll tell you a real quick story. Back in the days of NFL Europe, which is unfortunately no longer with us, Doug Graber, a former Bucs defensive coordinator, was a head coach in Frankfurt. And Graber is very used to these German football fans, American football fans. They are crazy. The fans that like it are crazy, and they sing during the games as if you're at a soccer game. And I can't repeat a lot of things they sing, but you can hear them singing, and that's pretty cool that they do that. But they just get that into American football over there. There's a reason this game's in Munich, Germany. They didn't just pick Germany out of a hat.
Do you think Tom Brady is popular in Munich, Germany? He's got
Yes,
well, he's an
yes,
international icon.
Absolutely, he's popular.
So I'm looking forward to waking up on Sunday morning and watching this, as I'm sure all of our fans are. And I want to make sure I have this right on our screen. Bucs have never won internationally. Is that correct?
That is correct.
Correct.
0-3 in London. All 3 games in London.
And do you think that that's a coincidence, or do you think that there is just something with the travel, the jet lag? I mean, we're talking about it going back several years now, a lot of different teams.
You can. The first 2, this goes back more than a decade.
09, 11,
Yeah,
19.
but you're 2019, which is a short while ago, was the last time the Bucs played in London, where they played terrible against the Carolina Panthers. It was really the beginning of the end of Jameis, that game. And a lot of things went wrong. And some of the things the players talked about, who are now on this current team still, was their preparation. Now, they had, Bruce Arians used the term sports science a lot. And they had all these things they were doing and methods, and they just didn't play well. And I think some of the guys took notes of how did I feel when we left Tampa? What did I do on the plane? When we got to London, what was it like? Did I sleep? Because they're trying to keep them moving. Anybody who's been to Europe, you get over there for the crack of dawn, and you know who all the Americans are, because we're the ones walking around the airport half asleep. And you have a choice to make at that point. Go to sleep, which I don't recommend, or fight. Fight and get through that first day and get on their schedule. Give yourself a chance. I think the Bucs tried that in 2019 and just couldn't get going.
Yeah. I don't know if there's any correlation with the other ones, to your question. I mean, they're different years.
Well, they're trying
I don't think you can
this
say.
Year. They're trying something this year.
Yeah, you said they did it before, though. They have like the glasses. Basically, they're like blue light blocker glasses that they recommend that the players wear 2 hours before you go to sleep.
I don't recall these on British Airways.
I have a big question as well, but I want you to finish your thought, Karen. Yeah.
Yeah, so the things that they were telling us today that they did, like Will Golston was showing us the glasses that all the players get, and it's just the blue light blockers, because the blue lights that you're getting from the screens interrupts your melatonin. And so if you put these on, it allows your melatonin to produce as it should, that you get sleepy and you want to go to sleep. So that's the idea. So they're telling the guys, suggesting to wear these a couple hours before bed just to block out the blue light, or you can just not be on screens. And they're adjusting their sleep schedules by a half hour. I think early in the week they started this. Like go to bed a half hour earlier, wake up a half hour earlier, get to the facility. And so when they get there, it's not as big of a, because it's a 6 hour time difference. Munich is 6 hours ahead.
I'll give you my
of Tampa
theory on it. I think the start time of the game on Eastern time is the detriment. And I know both teams are in, and Seattle must, and if I'm right, Seattle has it much worse. That's 6:30 in the morning Pacific time. So your body has to get up and be ready to play an NFL game at Seahawks 6:30 a.m., Buccaneers 9:30 a.m. in the morning. Neither one of those teams particularly has an advantage, but I just think they've had a hard time getting going in these games. And in particular, the last one against Carolina, by the time the Bucs settled in, it was over. The game was already over. They played catch up. They made it I think they made it a one-score game at the end, but the start was not good.
So like, does it just come down to how well you're following the instructions of your sports science and your strength and conditioning people? Because they're all going through the same thing.
Yeah.
Right.
Especially when you talk about like the Carolina game and Tampa. It's like y'all are both on East Coast. It's like you're under the same conditions. It's like when you play your games on a short week. It's like everybody has a short week. So it's like who can do what they need to do better.
They haven't had they came back from Dallas on opening week. That would be the closest thing to a red eye you could say, where they played the game at night, Eastern time. They probably didn't even leave Wheels Up in Texas till about almost 1:30-ish in the morning. Quick flight to Tampa, 2.5 hours maybe. But I'm sure they didn't get home to their beds until almost 6. And I don't think there's a comparison. The guys don't know how that feels to get on a plane, to say, now I must sleep, even though I'm not really tired. I'd rather watch a movie. No, I have to sleep. I think they haven't really had a chance other than that to go through that adjustment. Now, these players on their vacations, a lot of them have been to Europe, and they're not unfamiliar with this. Levante David's, I think, is the only guy on the team who's played in multiple Europe games for the Bucs. Maybe Will Golston, but I think Levante has. But there's not an exact science to it. And again, anyone who's watching, who's been overseas, you can chuckle and say, "Yeah, I remember my first day." Everybody's got the first day story, but but we're not playing football. We're getting up, we're getting on the time, we're touring and enjoying the sights. But they've got to be ready to play and ready to play right out of the gate. And so maybe Tom Brady's the guy that influences that.
Let me ask you this question. Very, very important question. Is it a dome or is it an open stadium?
It's open.
It is open.
Yeah.
Well, I'm looking at the forecast for Sunday.
It's gonna be brisk at night.
Brisk at night.
Chilly, huh?
So
must be in Germany.
Right. But you know what though? That's good football weather and a bit of a sign of obviously what's to come with some of the games that are going to be happening in December and hopefully deep into January as well. So I'm excited. I'm excited for the Buccaneers playing in Munich, Germany, because if the fans, to your point, Dan, if they are singing and hollering and chanting and all game long, that is just going to be a different, unique atmosphere, something that football fans are not accustomed to seeing, and certainly Buccaneers fans not accustomed to seeing. We have our own antics at Raymond James Stadium with firing cannons and going arg all the time. First down, Tampa Bay.
Well, it is a Bucs home game, am I right?
Correct.
It is.
I remember
the Bucs have been home for all of them.
Yeah.
All their international games.
I guess the schedule makers, when they pick the teams or ask the teams who wants to do it, do you want to lose a home game or that? But I remember in Tottenham Hotspur Stadium was completely decked out in red. Wow. I mean, it was Buccaneers signage everywhere, not one Carolina Panthers sign.
Wow.
To make it feel like the real home game.
You had the NFL logo on the 50-yard line. The end zones were red Buccaneers end zones.
Wait, both were?
Yeah, it was a Bucs home game.
Nice.
Because it's the Bucs.
The Raymond James Stadium public address announcer was the voice, and there was a lot of Bucs on the big screens. A lot of Bucs stuff and Bay Area things.
Yeah.
Where they really sold the beaches that day.
Really?
They're like, come to the beach in sunny
Love it.
Florida. Yes, and they'll do that again. They'll do that again Sunday.
WFLA.com sports content producer Casey Sloan told me that there is a big Tom Brady. There's just massive Tom Brady signage on the side of the stadium.
like a cartoon painting. Yeah.
So
awesome.
It's gonna be a home away from home type of game for the Buccaneers, but of a different variety. Certainly. Let's move on to our next key storyline here on your screen on Bucs Bonus, powered by 1-800-ASK-GARY with Bucs insiders Dan Lucas and Karen Loftus. The baby Bucs. We talked about it a little bit earlier on. Youth movement underway in Tampa Bay. Now, when we see the Bucs take the field, and we see particularly offense take the field Sunday in Munich, are we going to see the normal band of characters receiving passes, such as Mike Evans and Chris Godwin, and mixing in Julio Jones there as well? Are we going to see what we saw in the fourth quarter? Because clearly something clicked in the fourth quarter against the Rams, with Scotty Miller getting a lot of attention and Cade Otton getting a lot of attention. So, as far as Otton and Miller, are we going to be seeing more of that, or is it back to Evans and the rest of the gang?
Well, real quick, I think that a lot of that happened not by mistake, but by chance. I mean, they still don't have the solidified third receiver.
Correct. Yeah.
And so everybody, obviously it's Julio Jones, but
Russell Gage,
he
too.
hasn't. Yeah, until they're on the field all the time and producing, then this is going to be by committee. And I think that's what we saw Sunday.
Yeah, especially because Mike Evans and Chris Godwin are getting so much of the attention from the defenses. And if those guys are double teamed, that's what you're going to when you look down the depth chart. It's like, I'm going to take a guy who's open over a guy who's double teamed, even if it is Mike Evans. But if you see Mike Evans getting single coverage downfield, then you're going to see those opportunities where Tom Brady's like, I see you.
It's Mike Evans.
It's Mike Evans one-on-one. He's going to take Mike Evans one-on-one 10 out of 10 times.
Agreed.
So here's the thing. Scotty is going to be used, I think, sparingly throughout the season when called upon. And I think a lot of that's going to likely depend on the health of Russell Gage and Julio Jones, right? But Cade Otton, is he TE1 right now on this team?
Absolutely.
I mean, has he established himself as the...
Because Cam Braid's out, yeah.
So is Baby Gronk, is that a thing? Can we make that a thing?
I didn't hear that. I like it.
Yeah, let's run with it. I mean, from now on, he's Baby Gronk.
I'm going to give you a hot take, too. And we touched on this a couple of episodes ago, Karen, how when we were looking at Cade Otton and the hair flow, I look at Cade Otton catching this touchdown. I look at him, helmet on or off, and I see a mid-20s Brady. Am I the only one who thinks that Cade Otton and a younger Tom Brady share resemblance? With the hair and
I'm gonna have to go to the
I might be crazy.
On that.
I'm crazy.
You might be standing alone. I'm sorry to leave you out like that.
I like that. I just like his build and his size reminds me of.
I'm Googling it.
He's huge.
He does remind me of him a lot. I think since they drafted him, I thought it was an outstanding pick. They got lucky to get him. They had a chance to get the guy from Colorado early in the draft, and they didn't do it. He was the top tight end, and it was a point of concern in the offseason. And when they didn't draft the Colorado guy, and I apologize, Trey, I'm trying to remember his name, but
I'll look at.
If when they didn't make that pick, I thought, what are they going to do? Gronk's probably not coming back. What are they going to do? This is a problem because Tom Brady needs that position. He needs the tight end, and he needs the running back who he can check down to. Those are the Tom Brady necessities.
Trey McBride,
correct.
Yeah.
And Cade Otton, by the way, was rated, right up there. I think he might have been the second or third tight end on the board in the draft. So to get him where they got him, I thought it was a bit of a steal. And then we didn't really hear anything about him at all during camp in the build-up.
We were talking about Kyle Rudolph.
Yeah, that was Kyle Rudolph coming as a free agent is what we were talking about, who's done minimal. And by the way, that's a mystery. We could do a whole hour on that, by the way. It's just the Kyle Rudolph mystery.
Experience of Kyle Rudolph and then the experience with the Bucs. We were talking about Cam Brate. We're like, those are the dudes. So we hadn't gotten to the point of Cade Otton. But this is the best thing that could happen for him or for any rookie
the
who's
more
getting
he gets.
Yes. And just building his confidence.
Yes.
and building confidence with Tom Brady.
Right.
If Tom Brady has confidence in you, that's like tenfold confidence.
And the other rookie out here that I just slowly, I think this is about where we thought it might happen, Rachaad White.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Rachaad White. I don't know if it's the elephant in the room or not, but Rachaad White is the future sooner rather than later here. And I think we're witnessing the future.
And I think it's taken this long because there were a couple games where it might have been Byron or Todd Bowles that were asked about what gives. Why is Rachaad not getting more carries? Why isn't he involved?
Right.
And they were pretty honest. I forget who was talking about it. But it was like the series that he's been on were just sort of busts of a series.
Yeah.
So he was off the field quickly. But now we have a bigger sample size where he's being involved more. And Byron even said earlier on, he's like, we want to involve him more. And now that we've had more games, more series, and we're seeing him involved in drives that are lasting longer. So now the sample size is bigger.
Now, two concerns with both of the guys you just talked about, Rachaad White and Cade Otton, even mentioned during the draft was whether or not they were able to pass block. Let's start with Cade Otton. Has that been a concern for the Buccaneers as far as his ability to protect when necessary for Brady and the offense?
You know what? I think they've both had their ups and downs on it, and the downs have been exposed because that's something you never really pay attention to until it doesn't go right.
Right.
Correct me if I'm wrong, but Keeft has been good in the block game.
Keeft has been in there.
Caught a pass or two as well.
He's caught a couple of passes. But Keeft is the prototype
blocking tight end.
Tight end, yeah. Keeft is a man's man football player. He makes special teams tackles.
Just gritty. I feel like I get the
Blocks.
impression a lot of guys are like, he's earned a lot of respect just because of how tough of a
grinder.
Doesn't want the glory. He's like,
Right.
I'm just in there. Let me hit somebody.
Yeah, exactly. But Cade Otton has emerged as someone now. It's not it's not a last resort option. It's a guy that Tom
He's
Brady
on the short list,
can
right?
look at. There's passes being thrown that when you watch these games, you're like, boy, if Gronk were here, this goes to Gronk over the middle, 8 yards, and then that's now back in play.
And last question before we move on to the next key storyline. If Cam Brate is healthy, Cade Otton is healthy, who should be getting more targets from Tom Brady in this offense?
I would probably say Brate, because he knows the offense as well as anyone. I mean, he's been here almost the longest in the offense. But Cade Otton can play himself into that role for sure.
Yeah.
And there's no reason you can't have two of those guys out there.
That's right. Two tight end systems work.
Yeah.
They do work.
Absolutely.
Let's move on to the next key storyline. In Geno, they trust. Perhaps the biggest surprise storyline of the NFL season. Did somebody flip the NFC West upside down?
Yes.
Because the Seahawks were supposed to be miserable.
Right.
They were supposed to be the bottom feeders in that division when you've got the Rams, the Niners, and the Cardinals, three very dynamic offenses, three dynamic teams. And out of nowhere, Pete Carroll coaching that defense, Geno Smith in a pass-heavy offense. There's just a lot to like about what the Seahawks are doing. So in a game that most people thought was going to be, look, before the season now, I'm talking
This
preseason.
looked like the Bucs in a runaway this game, by the way, on
Easily.
paper. Yeah, before the season.
A massive favorite were the Buccaneers preseason in this matchup in Munich. And now all of a sudden, Seahawks coming in at 6-3, Buccaneers at 4-5. Now both division leaders because of how just polar opposites these two divisions are right now. But the Seahawks, no pushover. What do you two make of Geno, Pete Carroll, and this remade Seattle Seahawks football team?
Well, Pete Carroll made a comment this week, said that one of the things that has helped Geno Smith not turn around, but flip that switch, as you say, and get going, is he wears the wristband with the plays on it, where he said before we had resistance with that. And that was a little bit of a shot at Russell Wilson.
Yeah.
Now, Russell Wilson is at a certain spot in his career and has a Super Bowl, and Geno Smith is trying to one day get to that. So, of course, yes, put on the wristband. However, I guess you could say Geno has been following instruction a little bit more, and the system works.
It seems like it's working. And Kenneth Walker, the rookie running back.
Speaking of youth movement.
Exactly.
He's one of the
He had 2
top,
touchdowns last week, I think.
Yeah, he's already halfway to 1,000
Yeah.
in his rookie season, 1,000 yards. Best running back on the field in this game Sunday.
Yeah.
And somebody that the Bucs are really going to have to focus on. And the Seahawks have, they have DK Metcalf,
Tyler Lockett.
Tyler Lockett, who's one of the top
Leading the
receivers right now.
team,
And Noah Fant, their tight end, is a stud.
And look at the
as
emergence
well.
of Kenneth Walker, who is just absolutely a stud. They got something going there with their running game,
they've
too.
really got it cooking, and they've won 4 in a row, which you don't do by accident. So look at their record. They were 2-3 when they started this streak, and look at them now. This is big for Seattle. This is big because the 49ers are chasing them. The Rams are having some issues. They're doing a little soul searching right now, but it's kind of a 2-horse race in the NFC West at the moment.
Karen, what do you make of Seattle?
Yeah, everything that we were talking about. It's going to be tough to contain their offensive firepower for sure. And that was sort of the takeaway
crazy.
with this.
I feel like I'm taking crazy pills hearing you say that, because remember all of the preseason talk about whether or not Drew Lock was going to be the starting quarterback of this football team.
Yeah.
Geno Smith was not on anyone's radar, and that's why I think this is the best story in football. It's because here's a guy who very easily, after his very tumultuous time with the Jets, could have just, called it,
Could have faded away
into non-existence. Yeah. And here he is emerging and being really one of the most efficient quarterbacks in football. And while he's not, because it's so easy in this league to get stereotyped as being a bust, as being a guy who had your chance to lead a franchise, be the face of a franchise. You fall off the face of the earth, and then see ya, farewell. It's on to the next, first or second round quarterback that's drafted in the NFL draft. But Geno Smith hung around, waited for his opportunity. He was with the Giants in 2017, the Chargers 2018, emerges with the Seahawks in 2019, just waits behind Russell Wilson, gets his chance, making the most of it. How do you not root for a guy like that? I'm not going to be rooting for him on Sunday.
I was going to say, I think there's
Sunday.
several Bucs fans who could.
But it's definitely a great story, and one that that football fans everywhere, again, as long as Geno's not playing your team, it's just an awesome story, and one that we'll be, of course, hearing quite a bit about on the broadcast on Sunday. Kickoff 9:30 Eastern time, again on NFL Network, live from Munich, Germany. And that brings us to this week's Fantasy Spotlight. You guys know all the faces here on your screen. It's time for each one of our Bucs insiders.
Look,
Wow.
Okay, do you see the resemblance, or am I losing it? Okay, but don't look at Brady now, because Brady now is very different than Brady, 15 years ago. I want you to think of 15 years ago, Brady. I see a little resemblance. No? Nope.
I'm sorry, JB. I'm not going to lie to your face.
Karen thinks I'm looking at me like,
what's
are
my
you
one
serious?
takeaway from this? JB looking at K-Dot like Tom Brady 15 years ago.
JB trying to make us see a doppelganger situation.
No, I guess not.
Yes,
I guess
wow.
not. But maybe I'm losing my mind. But
It's okay.
Fantasy Spotlight, all the names on your screen. Guys, give us some insight as to who you think might shine in Germany and safe in the end zone. Guten Tag.
Guten Tag. I'm going to go off the board.
Off the board.
Off the board.
Well, I'm going to go on the
yeah.
board here, but I'm just going to give a little nod to our guy, Ryan Suckup.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's my guy. And
Is he still leading the league in points?
I believe so.
Yeah.
And he,
I'll look it up.
He had
I think he is.
Well, they had that really ugly blocked field goal attempt the other day where Bobby Wagner jumped over the center and just basically stood there and blocked it. Didn't even jump. He just stood there. That aside, this has been, he has been a savior, keeping the Bucs one score or a touchdown field goal situation in these games. And he was big last week. He was obviously big in the opener against the Cowboys. We can field goal the Seahawks to death if they're controlling the Seahawks run game. Ryan Suckup can kick 3 or 4 field goals in this thing. By the way, if he does that and he kicks a 50-yarder, they will go berserk in Germany. They will. The flight of a ball going through posts will get the Germans going. They will love it.
Is Is it possible that we might see a bigger reaction for a field goal than a touchdown in Munich, Germany?
I don't know.
I'll say this. When you go to a football game as opposed to watching it on TV and you watch a long field goal, it goes in or it doesn't. When you're at the game, you get the perspective.
Right.
Just how far they are away
Yeah.
from the uprights. And I know Suckup's range is just right around a little over 50. He's comfortable 51 and 52-ish. That's it. But that's a long ways away.
Yeah.
And he's accurate. I'm taking Ryan Suckup.
Okay,
I
I
love
like
the
that.
pick.
I'm using this opportunity to give a shout out to Jake Camarda for getting
Yes.
Oh, that's
special
right.
teams
How did we,
player.
man?
Congratulations.
Let's hit that because
Like, speaking of kicking it a long ways, I think
Oh,
his
my
longest
goodness.
punt was like 74 yards.
74 yards.
He was
put 4
outstanding.
inside the 20. He put a ball on the goal line that
Yeah.
we could still argue was outside of the end zone. The Bucs decided not to challenge it. But, yeah.
Unbelievable. Like, he got the game ball afterwards.
yeah, it was awesome.
And he was pretty a man of little words today when we were talking to him in the locker room.
I don't think he prefers the spotlight.
I
to be honest
know,
with
I
you.
got that vibe, but it was a moment. We're talking special teams, kicking it a long way, and
He
just wanted to bring that up because he's
yeah.
been somebody that has been pivotal in this game and something that maybe the casual fan doesn't pay attention to, but that's major in field position.
over
like
the course
major.
of over the course of 3 or 4 possessions and a half. Football fans all know the phrase "flipping the field."
Yep.
And if one team is always coming out from its own 15, 20-yard line, it's very difficult
Yes.
to say you have a 5-play drive, then you have to punt. You're just never going to get over that hump
Yep.
and get into the opponent's red zone easier, I guess is the phrase. And he made a huge difference in that Rams
Yeah.
game. Huge.
Yeah.
Huge.
Can I pick him for?
There you
Just-
go.
How do you score that?
I was
There
gonna say, I
are
don't think that
leagues.
shows
There
up.
are
there?
fantasy leagues where punters are worth points. Make that your pick. Go for it.
Oh, by the way, Todd Bowles, because he's the kickoff guy, and the Bucs had they put the Rams in a few return situations. He didn't boot it out of the end zone like he normally does, and he made a couple of tackles.
He did the first one, I think it was, where I was like, "Whoa!"
Open field tackle, and
Yeah.
I cringed. I'm like, please get up, Camarda, please get up.
And he wasn't. It wasn't like last line of defense. Like he was in
getting
it.
in
there.
Yeah, he
He
was
didn't-
like,
Yeah.
like
He
okay, I
didn't
hope they don't
quite,
get to me.
It wasn't exactly Pat McAfee-ish, but yeah, he's a tough kid.
Yeah.
He's a tough kid for sure.
Okay.
And on Jake for a second, that
Yep.
ball did not hit that line. No way.
You saw a sliver.
I saw that.
Did you?
One
The blade of
pixel
grass, you
of
saw it?
green. One pixel of
One
green.
pixel,
you know
Yeah,
like a
that's all
fraction
it
of a
takes is
blade.
one pixel.
So they go to the commercial break, and the Bucs are looking at this, trying to decide if they're going to throw the challenge flag or not. It's been called a touchback. And Todd Bowles said the officials came to him and said, "We don't know if there was a space in there. This is what we've called. I don't know if you want to challenge this or not." They basically advised him and said, "I don't know. I just don't know if it's going to be reversed." And he decided to eat it.
Yep.
That's a true story. I mean,
Yeah.
but JB should have been the one throwing the flag. He would have
Right.
thrown
He
it.
should have
I
called
saw
you.
it.
Yeah.
I saw it. All of us at home, we saw it. Karen, your fantasy spotlight pick of the week is
Okay. I'm gonna go with Mike Evans.
Okay.
Woo.
In passing game, we trust here. So the Seahawks pass defense is ranked 20th in the league.
Ooh.
So I'm going to say that Tom Brady and Mike Evans are going to put on a show for all the
Nice. I
fans
love
in
it.
Germany. And it's going to be, if you're a casual fan in Germany, I'm going to guess that you know about Tom Brady, and I'm going to guess that you know about Mike Evans.
Oh, yeah.
And it's going to be like the ideal showcase for the crowd there.
Agreed.
I'm going to go with Mike Evans. I think he's going to have a very big day.
I'm going to agree with you. And for the sake, we are running out of time here on this episode. We have to get a bit of breaking news on Bucs Bonus because the injury report is out.
Let's hear it.
And Antoine Winfield Jr., concussion, but full participant in practice. What does that mean? I'm looking here at the rest of the injury report.
It means that he has to pass the last test, cognitive testing they do. He's got the baseline. He goes into the protocol. Once you clear that test, you're clear to go. So that tells you physically he's feeling good. He's been doing some running, didn't get nauseous like you mentioned.
Yeah.
The lightheaded, the normal symptoms of that when they limit your activity. So this could be a matter of maybe tomorrow, maybe.
Yeah, and the full participation just means he took 100% of the reps that he would normally take in practice.
Yeah. So Cam Brate, also a full participant. Mike Evans limited with that ribs, ankle/ankle injury. Luke Gedeke, Russell Gage Jr., Julio Jones, Shaq Mason, J.J. Russell, all non-participants. But that's going to do it for this edition, folks, of Bucs Bonus. A little bit of an extended edition as we got into some great conversation here ahead of the Week 10 matchup, Seattle Seahawks against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers in Munich, Germany, 9:30 Eastern kickoff. Again, that being November 13th, coming up on NFL Network. Bucs Bonus is live weekly here on WFLA.com, the WFLA app, as well as then posted soon thereafter to YouTube, Apple Podcasts, and Spotify. To our podcast listeners, a special hello to you from the WFLA Now Stream Center. Bucs Bonus is powered by 1-800-ASK-GARY on WFLA Now. And, of course, we can't do it without our insiders, Karen Loftus, Dan Lucas. We'll let you get back to it, you guys, and thanks so much for joining us. And we'll see you next week. And as always, go Bucs.